15 or 20 are playing the balance of budget. Because do you trust these guys? That in 15 years they're going to, come on, that's like a 400-pound man losing 5 pounds over 15 years. It's crazy. I don't trust these guys. That's why I support a balanced budget amendment. We need some way to rein in spending. So I support a balanced budget amendment, and where we're going to cap spending at a certain percentage of GDP. Traditionally, over the last 40 years, we've spent 18% of GDP as a country. So let's take it there to start with. Cap it there. Yes.
Even though you would be a freshman, do you have any plans to approach your colleagues or get on board with some of your colleagues to do something about the agencies?
Oh, I thought you were going to go somewhere else with that. So I'll often ask, hey, you're going to be one of 435 congressmen, and you're a freshman, what can you really get done? And the answer is you caucus with like-minded congressmen and congresswomen. I think the Tea Party caucus has about 70 people in Congress in it right now, which is great. And I think the Republican Study Group, is a very conservative Republican group, has about 180, I think 183. So if that group can get to be 200 or 220, and that's a big number.
What would you like to do?
You can get things done.
What would you like to do?
Get government off of our backs, out of our pocketbooks, get the EPA and regulations under control. Now back to that point, is these agencies, how you doing?
You were flirting with me a moment ago. I heard EPA, government out of our pockets. I'm sorry, I think I'm one of those. It's a pleasure to meet you, sir. Yeah, it's a pleasure to meet you. Keep talking, you're romantic, everyone here. That's the owner.
That's the owner?
Yeah.
That was not a plan. I don't even know.
One of the managers was right here.
But it's government and laws by fiat. Agencies like the EPA agency are just willy-nilly on their own, and Congress needs to rein them in.
Government by regulation, not legislation.
Yes, exactly. As a Congress, we've given too much power to the executive branch. I think we've abdicated. 1/3 of the throne is supposed to be ours. You know, the 3 branches of government, we've abdicated the throne, I think. And I don't know what John Boehner is or isn't doing there, or why he is or isn't doing it, but I think we need to get them under control. There's a piece of legislation called the REINS Act that tries to rein in regulations. Any regulation in that act that has over $100 million a year impact on business, what they want to do is take that one piece of regulation, bring it before the House and the Senate, and have an up or down vote on just that piece of regulation by itself, up or down. You vote up or vote down on it. Everything that's more than 100 million impact. And that would be about, I think in the last couple of years, that would be about 100 regulations.
When do we start?
So I would support that fully, and like I said, I don't know the inner workings of Congress, obviously, I'm not there, but we need to get these agencies under control. I mean, we've abdicated the throne. I would think Boehner should be all over this. Too much power in the presidency of the United States. Just like the president can detain a citizen now indefinitely, say that I suspect you of being a terrorist because I've read your email, by the way, and now we can send to Guantanamo without due process of law. We can do that. That's in the NDAA Act. Yeah, just like roving wiretaps. We're in the Patriot Act. Patriot Act was passed in such haste after 9/11 that even the senators and congressmen, they even admitted, we didn't read it. They didn't read it. They didn't know it was in the bill. They didn't know it was in the bill. Pardon me?
Did they read any bill?
Well, I question it. I seriously question it. They're like SISPA, SOPA, the intrusions into the internet. And I always tell conservative groups, what's the best method we have anymore of communicating? Conservative groups. It's not the major media. Sorry, James. It's not the major media, is it? It is the internet. And I say to the government, keep your hands off my internet. And what's sad is, us as individuals, citizens, we give up so many of our liberties and so many of our freedoms in the name of safety. The government always says, we're going to make you safe if you give us a little bit of your freedom. I think it's Benjamin Franklin said, if we do that, give up our freedoms and liberties for safety, we're going to end up with neither. So I'm maybe I'm dumb, maybe I'm naive. I think we can be safe and hold dear our liberties and our freedoms. We should stop giving them up. Just like our states give up their sovereignty under the 10th Amendment to the Constitution for a check. Because whenever we get a check from the federal government, there's always strings attached, isn't there? And for example, federal government, I believe in what Jefferson said. The government which is closest to the people governs best. Ronald Reagan repeated that often. Meaning, if I was asked about bills in Washington, can we do this in Des Moines? Because if we can do this in Des Moines, why are we doing it in Washington, D.C.? And if Des Moines should be saying, can we do this in Cedar Rapids, in Lynn County? Why are we doing it in Des Moines? Like the Department of Education, $69 billion budget, that doesn't include Pell Grants. $69 billion. Close it down. There's $70 billion right there. And what are we getting for it? No one knows.
Problems.
No one, other than No Child Left Behind, which not one educator likes. Pardon me?
Mal-educated children is what we're getting for our $69 billion.
Our public school system. Now Malcolm, that lives with us, he came from Chicago, South Side, in the 6th grade. 6th. When he came to Dubuque, Iowa, he could not read. Now what was his future? His future was prison, is what I would guess. Welfare. He couldn't read. You had to read. Okay, so that's what our inner cities. There's a great DVD out called Waiting for Superman. You have to see that DVD. It's a documentary about our public school system. Now it's in New York City, it's in Chicago, it's in LA, it's in the bigger urban areas. You will never ever think the same about public education if you see this. We've got a real problem on our hands with our public education system. I support a voucher system. I support the money following the student. Because I support, goes back to competition, free market. Okay, how are we going to get competition into our school system? How are we going to make parents consumers? Right now you're forced to send your child based on where you live to a certain school, or you pay for the public school and the private school. Vouchers. I think it's the only way we're going to save our children. I personally believe that unions should not be close for our children. I don't think they belong to public education. I think there's a lot of great union teachers, and in a free system with competition, they'd probably be making twice the money. Okay? And the ones that are bad would be gone. So I support competition and freedom, free market, in the education system. Yes? Oh, I'm sorry.
Not too long ago,
He's waiting to get married, by the way. Working on getting married, he said. That's an interesting way to phrase it. I've never heard anybody say I'm working on getting married. Are you engaged? No? I asked. Oh, my God. Okay.
Practice. The first one, entitlement spending alone is greater than our government revenue. What entitlements would you actively fight to either reduce or eliminate?
Entitlement. You know, and now people like me, if I'm elected, we get to deal with this because our career politicians for 30 years stuffed their head in the sand. And they called it the third rail politics, and you can't even discuss entitlement. And now we're in a serious mess. Entitlements, in one word, unsustainable. They truly are. Actuarially, you look at Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, it's not sustainable. Social Security ran a deficit this year, way earlier than they thought. It actually ran a deficit. Now there's a whole bunch of IOUs in the federal government's drawer for Social Security, right? So they're going to take them out of the general fund because they've been borrowing it. They've been borrowing it for the last 30 years. They're going to take it out of the general fund and they're going to put it back in the Social Security Trust Fund. Okay, so that's going to, that's from one pocket to the other. So now we're going to have bigger deficits because Social Security's running deficits now. And we got to take that money out of there. 2032, completely broke. Okay, so in 20 years, completely broke. Nothing less than the IOU drawer. So something has to be done with Social Security. Now, what's been the problem with Social Security?
Foster care?
It's a good problem. We're living longer. When it was passed in 1935, I believe it was, the average life expectancy was 62. Okay, you retired at 65, so the government figured everybody was going to be dead. Most people weren't going to collect on it. Now the life expectancy 70, well, women are 80. I don't know, why do women live longer? Anybody explain that to me? I don't know. Men always die younger.
Orneriness.
Orneriness? I mean, men are ornery.
No.
No.
I heard men want to die younger because they want to.
I'm sorry, I couldn't help myself.
So we
war on women again, you know?
I'm just joking, lady.
we've got to raise the retirement age. Paul Ryan calls that modernization.
Yeah.
Modernization, but we have to raise the retirement age. I'm not for means testing. Let me tell you why I'm not for means testing. One of the reasons I'm running is I think our country's upside down. And I think we penalize good behavior. We penalize people that play by the rules. I remember my old man, and I'll call him that affectionately, he used to always say, Rod, you know, if you don't drink a lot in the bars, you don't do drugs, get a good education, work hard, don't get a girl pregnant out of wedlock, you'll do better than Mom and I. And I followed those rules, other than the drinking in the bars. I like my beer. Okay? And I have done better than my mom and dad. Okay, but I played by the rules. And it seems to me anymore, people that play by the rules, they work hard, save money, they spend less than they make, they get penalized now. And if you don't play by the rules, you get women pregnant out of wedlock, you drop out of school, do drugs, you jail. Now the government's just, we're throwing ourselves at these folks to help them out. Okay, and I just think it's upside down. So, means testing of Social Security, I sit and say, wait a minute, you live beneath your means your whole life, you worked hard, you played by the rules, you paid in. Now they say, hey, you got a couple $100 grand in the bank, we're going to take away your Social Security. I just find that profoundly wrong. I don't think that's right. So I don't believe in means testing. Raising the age, yes. Now on Medicare, I agree with Paul Ryan. I think we need to create competition, like I said, in the education system. We need to create a healthcare system. I'd like to see a voucher system. Right now we spend $11,000 per senior citizen in Medicare, okay? I say give them a voucher for $11,000 for healthcare. Now you make them a consumer. Now they're more concerned about what something costs and where they're going to go for care. Okay, now if they're low income, maybe they get a bigger voucher, but this is like school vouchers. This will create competition in the healthcare arena. And then Medicaid, block grant those monies back to the state where they belong. Another neat thing about the 10th Amendment and states' rights, we could have 50 incubators in this country. 50 places where different things are tried. Remember where Tommy Thompson was the governor of Wisconsin?
Yeah.
And he did, instead of welfare, he called it workfare.
Yep.
And it worked beautifully in Wisconsin. So in business, we call this best practices. And we look at other companies, and we say, what are they doing? I mean, we pay money to go to seminars to figure out what other companies are doing. Okay, then we try to adopt what they do that's working. Why don't we do that with 50 states? This is working in the state and Medicaid, but this isn't working. And if I was the governor, I'd want to copy what's working. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. So I think that's the way, there is no easier answer to this because it's been ignored for 30 years. There is no easy out. So we've got to do these things over time. These programs are going to run deficits. Yes, they are. There's no doubt about it. Because my mother, 82 years old, she lives on Social Security and Medicare. $925 a month. And so as a classic example, you just can't go cut my mother's Medicare to $600. Now obviously I'd take care of her, but if there wasn't a me around, what would she do? End up in a soup kitchen or, in a pork farm? I mean, we can't. And once again, my mom and dad played by the rules. And they said this program would be there for them. We can't change it now. We got to start changing it with younger people. I heard a stat the other day that more young people believe in UFOs than believe in the Social Security system.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that? Do you think it's going to be there for you?
No.
Actually, correct.
It's
So we need to do something.
My husband and I want to retire.
Some of your age, we ought to expand the IRA concept, where you can put more of your own money into your own type of an account. Your employer has to match a certain percentage of it. These accounts will be guaranteed by the government. Okay, and then that money's yours. And if you die prematurely, you can pass that on to your relatives or your future wife here and your children. So you would own that. Today in Social Security, that just goes back into the pot of money to the government. Yes.
Question real quick.
Okay.
You said you won't run for re-election after 3 terms.
Mm-hmm.
that mean you would run for president?
Or Senate.
Sure.
Senate.
Or, that's not, I mean,
See, I know my stuff.
I won't, yes, 3 terms in the House. Yes, I would leave myself the option to run for other if that seems like the thing to do. But I don't covet, like, this power. I don't covet a career in politics. I'm doing this not to have power over all of you. I want to return power to you. You know, I think the guys are smart. You make good decisions. We need to get power back to the people. There's too much. You say, how are we going to change Washington, Rod? We've got to send them less money. That's the, you know, we send them the money, send it and spend it. We got to send them less money. That's why there's so much power there. $2.8 trillion a year going into Washington, D.C. Way too much money. You had your hand up forever.
A bunch of years ago, I did a calculation on what I would make and what I would have at retirement age if I would put what I was paying into Social Security. And as I remember, now I said this a bunch of years ago, but I'm pretty sure this is right. At 5%, I would have had $500,000, and at 10%, I would have had $1 million. And I don't think either of those are unrealistic.
I agree with you totally. I think the average return today on Social Security about 1%. Can you get 1% return on your money in general?
No.
If the Fed wasn't holding interest rates down, easy to beat the return. If you're African American, because their life expectancy is lower, it's a loser. It's an you lose money.
Well, the point of it is, there's no reason to feel guilty for receiving Social Security because.
Oh, absolutely not.
Because I would have had much more if I had.
That's great. You played by the rules.
Yeah.
That's why your benefit should not be cut. You played by the rules. You did what you're supposed to do. Absolutely, you shouldn't feel bad about that.
Yeah,
No, not at all.
government takes more than 1/4%.
That's my point, sir. Is you played by the rules. You worked hard. You paid in.
Am I right?
Yes.
It takes more than 1/4%. Government takes more than 1/4%.
I need somebody to figure out.
Over a long time.
Who's had their hand up for a long time?
Not wait.
Go ahead. Sorry.
First of all, we wouldn't have a Social Security problem if the people who stole from it put in, they replenished what they took out
With
years
interest.
down the road, and they didn't extra that interest. If the way it was set up, it would have worked if they would have just
Put it in a trust fund.
Yeah.
But we wouldn't have this conversation.
Yeah, but no, I'm on disability, paid into disability, work $80, $120 weeks, and then I'm on disability. I'm fortunate enough to have an employer who wants me to be able to eventually come back to work, so I have employee rights. I don't get a paycheck from it, or I had employee rights. So I was paying into Medicare, and I had family coverage for $220 a month, and it was a Cadillac plan. Now, I had that insurance under Bush. I just had to have a statement from them saying that they had more than 50 employees, and so they paid my insurance. It would be my primary insurance, and Medicare would be my secondary insurance. I had no issue with doing that.
So your primary is through your former employer.
Once Obama took office, without notice, in the middle of the year, suddenly I get bills that are supposed to be paid for. And
The Cadillac plan.
because it was canceled, it became my secondary insurance. And I had to have Medicare as my primary insurance. Medicare, I got to pay $1,200 out of pocket for it, pays 80% of whatever it feels like. I don't get $1,200 worth of sick a year. Okay? Now, then, after Obamacare, so I went to Loebsack, and I love this, on an open mic, I asked him why he hated the disabled in Iowa. Because he was voting to
Wasn't he an
pass
engineer?
Obamacare without reading it. And specifically now, they fixed it. So they made it illegal for my company to pay any portion of my insurance because I'm not working. So then, now my whole family lost.
That's a good fix.
My whole family lost their insurance now, and I'm on Medicare. Now, it'd make more sense to have a company willing to pay. I mean, they wrote letters to Medicare, to Congress, to senators, saying we should be paying his insurance, and you staying out of it, you know. But it'd make more sense when you have a third-party company willing to pay the gross amount of it. Like I said, I had no issue with paying it because that's what I signed up for. And because I was fortunate to have insurance, I didn't mind paying the $96 a month for people who didn't have insurance. But now, I have insurance that I can't use. Because I don't have $1,200 to spend out of pocket.
Yeah, Obamacare, it's about control.
Yep.
And it is set up, this law is set up, and it's still being written by the regulators every day. But it's set up to be a single-payer system at the end of the day. And the Democrats will say that's not true. That is true. I've got some friends that are in the insurance industry, health insurance industry. And there's what's called a maximum payout ratio. Okay, and it's 80% for small companies and 85% for big companies. Meaning, 80% is the payout ratio. So let's say you had a good year as an insurance company and you only paid out 70% of your premium in loss to customers. Okay, what the law says is that insurance company has to send you a check up to the 80% level. And my friends tell me that there's no way an insurance company can survive and exist on that 20%, because they got to pay agents' commissions, they got to pay overhead, advertising. And he said, in a good year, we can. He said, but every insurance company salts away some profits in a good year in a reserve to pay for a bad year. He said, we won't have anything in a reserve to pay for a bad year.
Can't do the reserve because they are outlawed.
Correct. Now, my little company, 5 years ago, we used to be able to get 5 bids for health insurance. Okay, 5. Today, it's 2. United Healthcare, which used to be John Deere, and Blue Cross Blue Shield, goes 2. And my business partner and I go, what's going to happen when it's down to 1? I mean, I can't imagine what we're going to have. I mean, it just frightens the heck out of it. So Obamacare, they're going by the wayside. They're going out of business. They're getting out of the healthcare business. Insurance company. It's going to be one left. It's going to be the federal government, single payer. And then Kathleen Sebelius tells us that they're going to bend the cost curve down in healthcare. I always ask every crowd I talk to, give me an example where the federal government has bent any cost curve down. I haven't heard one yet in 7 months. What they're going to do, how are they going to save money?
Stop treating illegals?
Well, that'd be, but rationing. Rationing. Yeah, Sarah Palin talked about death panels. I mean, it's all in there. That's what they'll do. But it's all about control. It's all about having the government be your provider of health care. So that's a great example.
Of everything.
Another thing.
How great a bargain is the discount ticket on the Titanic?
Well, yes, I know. That's why I'm running.
I mean, they're going to make the costs go down, but the system's not going to survive.
We need to send some people to Washington that have a spine, because I mean these are really tough times and critical times, and we just can't keep playing politics. I don't think we need some guys and girls that can go there to say no to the president sometimes, no to Boehner sometimes, and come back to their home district and sometimes say no, we can't afford it. No to the lobbyists for sure. I've often said if I'm in Congress, you come and visit me, and please do. There's going to be a sign outside my office that says Rod Blum. And it's going to say underneath it, not for sale. Honest to God, it will. Because it's like lobbyists, I don't even want to see it. I don't need to hear from you. I know it. I know you want me to spend some money on your pet cause. It's like, no, I don't want to talk to you. You all are the ones I want to talk to. Who's been holding their hand up?
Emma.
Emma? Hello.
Yeah, hi. Rob, this is more, I guess, of a comment, and I don't know what any person that wins this election can do about the immigration laws. You see, during the early times, those laws are implemented. I know between you and Ben Lang, you talk about closing the borders, which is a good idea, but it has never been done yet ever since, as far as I was back here since 20 years ago, they've never done anything to the borders. But there used to be a lot of laws, but are not implemented right now. That's why a lot of people, Mexico is not just the borders that we have to watch. There's people coming in from China, India, Philippines. I mean, there are laws before that once you're 4 months pregnant, you can even enter the United States. Because we know if they give you a 6 months visa, definitely you're going to give birth in the United States, and that's going to become
anchor baby.
An anchor baby. And even if you're a tourist, you don't have to go home. So I think we should implement a lot of laws that's written right now. Nobody seems to really try to read those